Well, since it's only 78 degrees out and it's been cooler this week, I decided it was time to change the clutch in my 2003 Ford Focus here. I've already undone the axle nuts and the lug nuts, both sides, and as you can see I took the hood off with a little bit of help there. So now it's time to get on with the rest of the job, I guess. So I'm thinking got to drain the transmission, a few other things, but we'll probably disconnect and take the battery out and all this stuff off of here and all that. So got to do a real good strip job on it to take the transmission out here. So it's going to be lots of fun. Plus I'm dealing with I don't know if it's one of those murder wasps or what they are, but he likes to inhabit the part of my carport roof that rotted out before I put a metal roof on it. So give him a couple shots of brake clean already, but I tell you, that's one tough character. Everything else would be on the ground dead by now, but not this thing. So anyway, hopefully, well, I'll leave him alone. Hopefully he'll leave me alone. So on with the job here. So here I am, an hour and a half in. Got the air intake off there, got the battery. Oh yeah, the ignition mount right here. That was a bit of a pain in the butt. It's Torx. Looks like T25 and a T40. And the bottom bolt right here is an absolute turkey right here, because this was in the way. Now I rotated it, so, but even so, it's not a good design. Can't find the wrench I need, because you have an extreme difficulty trying to get straight onto it because of the height of the water pipe, the hose there. Anyway, so that had a little fun undoing a ground wire over here, but once you get it all undone, you can pretty well move the wires where you want them. So I read in the book something about this clutch tube here where I have to undo it, and so I think I got some fun deep down in there next. Haven't even touched the bolt on the transmission yet, so still got a long ways to go here. So I drained the fluid out of the transaxle. You have to go up through this hole here, and the plug is sitting in there. You need an 8mm Allen wrench to undo it. Mine didn't want to go in, but that's because it had some rust in the bolt. But it is indeed 8mm, so you'll have to take that dude out of there to drain it. This one had transmission fluid in it as opposed to hypoid gear oil, but it seemed to work okay. I knew there was some debate about that, and I switched the other car to hypoid. It seemed to work okay. Anyway, got her drained out about, I'd say, I don't know, 1.5 liters or something. I don't know how much it holds, but whatever it is, it's going back in it. I made sure I used a nice clean drain pan and didn't get any. I cleaned this all up first, didn't get sand in it and all that. So I was just going to mention a couple of tricky bits here. These are the 3 starter bolts. They're M10 by 1.5 thread with a 13mm head, and two of them go through the transmission and in that way screw into the starter. The third one comes back this way, it's the bottom one, and into the threads into the transmission. That one took me 45 minutes to get out because the threads were so tight. So needless to say, I ran a dye down them and cleaned the threads on them all. And this is the center bearing, 2 13mm nuts there. And to get the axles out, I figured it'd be best to take the bolts out of the ball joint. That way I'm not, screwing around with my rubber grease covers there. A lot of times with the tuning fork, you'll slice them up. Anyway, you can't do it by taking the 3 bolts out of the ball joint, because the bolt comes up and hits the casting. So you have to use your tuning fork on that there. So had some fun getting the cross bolt out on the other side there, but I got them over here. Actually, no, I got one right here. I gotta clean the threads up on it. It was a little bit on the tight side. I don't always trust nylock nuts and things. They're limited use, so I always back them up with a second nut. But yeah, it was tight in the housing. Even with penetrating oil, I had to put some heat on the housing to get it out. Otherwise I was afraid it was going to break off. But yeah, that's just 3 little pointers there. So I got the engine supported there with my come along. Got a mount bracket there and one on the far side. And there's got a jack on the transmission and a jack stand. Don't want anything falling on me here, so now it's about time to pull the axles out of the transmission. That can always be a joy too. So, but all in all, I'm just taking my time at it here. So get to drive the HHR to work when this isn't in operation yet. So, and I wired up the wires and the hoses and things to get them out of the way to get more clearance to the transmission. And I finally figured out what they're talking about. The clip on the clutch line. There is a metal clip there. You probably can't see it, but you get a light on it, you'll see it. It's a little metal clip. So I'm saving that to the end though, because I don't want to leak fluid all over. And then I'll put a plastic bag with a whole bunch of elastic bands around it to stop it from leaking. A lot of times I would just put plasticine on or something, but I'd be afraid that will contaminate the fluid. So we'll plug her up somehow. Side axle out. There's a center bearing there. Spline's in the transaxle. So I'll clean it up and put a plastic bag with an elastic around it to keep the transmission end nice and clean. This end here is going to get wire brushed and anti-seized before it goes back in. On the passenger side, I had to disconnect the lower ball joint as well as the steering, and of course I sliced open the rubber boot on it, so I'll probably be getting a new tie rod end. Wouldn't come out any other way. I tried prying and pulling and everything. No, it wasn't coming. Got to document this. Getting the driver's side axle out was no fun. It usually isn't. But I had to take a big fat screwdriver here, cut it at about 17¼ inches long. And I used to be able to do it with this 8½ inch chisel, but not happening this time. So basically, I jammed this up in the transaxle against one of the flanges. The axle rotates, and then basically the frame hit it somewhere around here, and then I kicked it. Took me 3 or 4 times, but finally it came out. I had the end of the axle wired. Just use some car wire, so it couldn't come flying out or hit me or whatever. So, because I was kind of, at one point I was lying down under it there trying to hit it with a hammer and stuff, and that just wasn't happening. But the driver's side's usually fun because the transaxle kind of goes around it, so it gets in the way. Passenger side's not quite so bad. But anyway, this guy did her. As you can see, he's a big fat screwdriver, almost like a chisel, but about 17½ inches long, depending how high you got the car jacked up and all that. But that's the only way I've found. Well, there. Took 2 of us, but we got it out. Had to lower the engine down, and one person pull it all the way forward. Had to disconnect the exhaust to do that. And here the lump is. So, it's kind of funny. It started leaking oil and antifreeze out of it. It's like these pockets here. Some of them, that one had antifreeze in it. Green antifreeze. The car's running red antifreeze. I can see some of that down here. I don't know where the oil was coming from. Could be up one of those or something. But anyway, so now it's time to undo the bolts on the clutch there and take that off. So yeah, I just wanted to document that you know, you see we had to lower it down. It kept hitting on the frame right there, this thing. So had to come way forward as far as we could, and basically my son held on to it and I lowered the jack down after we got it to break loose. You wouldn't think that long a spline there would cause so much grief, but it did. We couldn't get it to disengage from the clutch. So lots of fun. I can see why people take the whole engine and transmission out at once. Might not be all that much more work. Of course, I better shut up because I haven't got it back in yet either.